Hey, this is the Dialed MTB 2024 Tallboy review video, and I'm stoked to talk about this. This is actually my personal bike, and I think it's going to be my personal bike for a while unless something crazy comes out. But yeah, let's get into it. Let's talk about spec first. So first off, I bought the XO AXS build, so the transmission, and then I swapped out to the Industry 9 280 like lightweight 24 spoke wheel set, so lighter carbon wheels. It does come with the race face ARC 30 or ARC 30. It used to come with the 27. I kind of wish that it still came with the 27. It's a lighter weight wheel set, and I think it's actually a decent amount lighter. Tell me in the comments down below if I'm way off on that, but I'm pretty sure it felt lighter, those 27s. I used to have the Tallboy V4. This is the V5, but anyway, let's move on from the wheels. I got carbon wheels on there. For like $1,000 more, I think you can get those Reserve 30 SL wheels, I believe, and those are still about a half a pound heavier than this, but about a half a pound lighter than the wheels that come on the bike. So a great option, and they have a lifetime warranty, which is a really cool feature of all Santa Cruz products. But then let's go to the brakes. It comes with the new like level stealths, which is actually a G2 caliper, and then the levers assembly is actually a new lever assembly. But I got rid of those and I put the Magura. It's actually like a MT5. It's a special edition one, which is basically identical to the MT7s, but all black, and I just thought it looked better with this build, so that's what I went with. And then it does come with a 1-up 150 millimeter dropper. Once again, I think that 150 millimeter dropper is so short. I swapped it out for a 180 bike yoke, but with that, you have very little seat tube room to play with, which is kind of annoying. I wish that you had more, but with the way that Santa Cruz has their suspension design, the seat tube just can't go further down, and you have to have the room for the bottom of the seat post with the cables and all that to come in. So I barely got this 185 on there. And then it's got the Fox Factory suspension, Fox Factory 34 Grip 2 up front with the brand new Fox Float DPS 2024 rear shock on it. We'll talk about that rear shock a little later, but I will give you a little spoiler. Not my favorite rear shock yet. Maybe later on, maybe if I get it dialed in a little more, it could be good, or on a different bike, but not stoked on that rear shock. So yeah, and then I actually, kind of side note, I actually tried to do a first ride video for you guys because I really think that that's really fun to do, and people enjoy that because it's just an instant what I'm thinking as I'm riding the bike for the first time. But the bike came with Santa Cruz's carbon 760 bars, and I used those to start with, and those are just too narrow for me. I used to be okay with 760s, but I've been riding 780 to 790 depending on which bike I'm riding it on for the last 2 years straight, and going to that 760 was just a little too much. And then this cool new feature on the V5 is obviously the frame storage. Super rad. It comes with two like in-frame storage bags also. I put this specialized water bottle cage on with the tool on it, so I don't have to put any tools inside of there, and I can put like a shock pump or snacks or whatever I want in there as I need that. All right, let's talk a few geometry numbers now. Not gonna go through everything because I'm just gonna talk about the size medium bike that I'm riding. But in the low setting, the reach is at 453. It goes 2 millimeters longer for the high setting. And then the head tube angle is 65.5 degrees, goes 0.2 degrees slacker in that high setting. And then the wheelbase is 1199 millimeters in both settings. So everything's a little bit longer, like the wheelbase is a little bit longer, the reach is a little bit longer, but the head tube angle is actually identical as the V4. And I'm not too disappointed in that. That V4 Tallboy kind of set the bar for a very, very, very long time for me for any 120 millimeter trail bike. Pretty much until I got this bike, it kind of stayed the bike that I was like, yeah, well, this Tallboy still did this a little bit better. So that just speaks to how well they got that bike back in. I think it came out in 2019 or 2020. And then they just did some refinements on this one. So pretty rad. Yeah, if you want to check out all the specs, I'll put a link to Specialized down below, and you can just go to their website and check out all the geometry numbers. So with the high and low settings, I did ride the bike in both. And honestly, I think there's really no reason at all to run the bike in the high setting. I had no problems with pedal strikes or anything with that in the low setting, so those millimeter or two in the bottom bracket height didn't make a difference. Then on the climb, it really didn't make any difference either. And then on the descent, it did make a small percentage. I'd say 3 to 5% better on the descent, and everything else felt the same. So I'm gonna take that extra 3 to 5%. So yeah, I'm super stoked about that. Let's talk about the climbing real fast. We're gonna keep the climbing short. Bike climbs really well, but let's get to that rear shock that I was talking about earlier. So this rear shock is really, really bouncy feeling. I've done different air pressures and different settings. So I've been running this Shockwiz since day one almost, and I'd say the reason is because I just have not been able to get a comfortable rear setting on this shock, and I would want a slower rebound on the climb, which to make it not so bouncy, because it's really like, for some reason, it's just so bouncy. And I've tried a bunch of different air pressures. I brought a pump with me, changed it every single lap, and it just, nothing could make it better. And then you go to the descent and you would want it faster than what it was on the climb. So like, it just didn't make sense. Everything was just completely off feeling on it. Like there needs to be some middle ground in something. So I don't know if it's just this bike or maybe it's literally just this shock. Sometimes you get a shock that's just not good. But with that, overall, the bike still climbs good. When you get that shock set up right for the climbs, it feels amazing on the climb. Similar to the V4 Tallboy, not quite as good as that Yeti SB 120 that I just rode a little bit before this. But the descent, obviously we're going to talk about that later, but the descent I'd say favors this over the 120, but we'll go over that pretty soon. So let's just jump into the riding and let's meet back over here and talk about it a little bit more after that. All right, here we go down the flow trail at Eagle Bike Park. So this bike I've been riding for a couple months now, and it does have a couple different feelings from the old bike. It's been a while since I've rode the V4, but it definitely feels a little like pop. Like the last one was poppy, but I'd say this one feels even poppier, and I would say it does feel better like in chunky stuff, which we'll ride here in a little bit. I'm not sure which one really jumps better. This one still jumps really good. They both jump really good. The geometry on them are so dang similar that, I mean, it's not going to be major differences. The glove box is going to be nice, that in-frame storage. Yeah, so just going to be highlighting what I like about it. So let's, whew, it does pop a little bit higher than the other bikes I've been riding lately. Compared to the SB 120, it definitely is a more poppy, a little bit more playful bike. I wouldn't say like on a crazy scale, but a little bit. And it also has a more bottomless feel. Obviously it's 120, so there is a limit, but between the two, this one definitely has more to give. All right, here we go down Shake and Bake now. So this trail's got a little bit more features on it than the flow trail does. And this bike just does feel like a lot more composed for a 120 millimeter bike than almost anyone out there. I would say the Norco Optic, it's 125. That is probably the only bike within 5 millimeters of this that I've rode, at least, that is as smooth and plush feeling in that rear end as this bike is. I'd say that Norco Optic is probably a little bit plusher, but not much. But this bike climbs way better. So yeah, this thing is pretty dang impressive. And I have some wheels on it that aren't the smoothest wheels. They're the Industry 9 24 spoke. I think they're 280s, but they're like their ultra light, 1,500 grams or so. But yeah, it's pretty impressive how deep this bike is for a 120 millimeter bike. And I will say this float DPS that's on there, that is the new 2024 one. I'm not the most impressed with it, so I'll probably be trading that out soon. All right, here we go. Down Storm and Mormon. I actually have not rode this trail in a while and have not rode it on this bike, so let's check it out. It's kind of like a flat, jumpy, droppy trail. I don't know, it's kind of a weird one. But yeah, so this bike, I mean, if you were thinking about this bike and you want a shorter travel bike that really descends above its category, and I'd say climbs within its category, this is definitely one to check out for sure. It is super comfortable, and I would say like the biggest downfall for me so far is just figuring out that rear shock on the climb. If that wasn't an issue, I would be super stoked about this bike. So yeah, it's fast rolling, it's comfortable, does that jump pretty dang well. Yeah, it's fun. It's an overall really good bike, and whew, that one always kicks me weird. So, but yeah, the overall super fun bike. I really enjoy it. I think I'm going to get a RockShox Deluxe or Super Deluxe. You should let me know in the comments down below if you have this bike and if you've tried a Super Deluxe on it, how you liked it. I think that'd be pretty rad. I think that would fix all the problems I'm having. It'd be about a ½ pound heavier, but that's all right. I think that ½ pound would be well worth it for the gains. I think it would actually climb better just because it wouldn't have that bouncy feeling, and then it would descend even better. Let's get back, talk about it some more, and wrap this thing up. All right. So let's talk about who this bike's for. I think that this bike is gonna be really good for someone that rides a lot, just a lot of miles. And it's not that they don't value the climbing, but they do still want to have a good time on the descents, but they still want to climb fast. Or maybe like you're somewhere and your friends climb really fast and you need a little bit extra edge, and they're all on like 140 millimeter travel bikes, like a SB 140 or Hightower or Stump Jumper Evo or Trek Fuel EX or anything like that, and you need a little bit help on the climb, this would be great for you because it still goes down so well. Like, it goes down way above its pay grade for this 120 millimeter rear travel bike. Yeah, it's pretty impressive. So I'd say it's for someone that is like that, or you live in a place like I do, Boise. You live somewhere that has a bunch of trails really close that have very minimal features on them as far as technical stuff, but a lot of high speeds, but you still want some cushion in it to feel confident and all of that. But yeah, so let's move on. So with that, let's just head right into the value. So I will say Santa Cruz has done a really good job into 2024 models, which came out in March of 2023, which is weird to me. I don't understand Santa Cruz's timeline of years and all that, but it is what it is. So they've came out with a lot better priced bike. It is, so now I was actually just looking, the S kit is $54.99. In 2019 into 2020, early 2020, the S kit of the V4 was $49.99. So now it's 500 bucks more with, if you're counting all of the inflation and everything that's happened in the last 5 years or so, 4 years, whatever it is. I don't think $500 is ridiculously too much over like what it used to be. And you do get some cool new features, and you get that in-frame storage, and then you get just small little things that have made this bike a little bit better. And then you jump up to this build, which not quite this build, but very similar. It's $78.99. There is a GX Axis transmission build in between at $68.99, so $1,000 less. But I think if you're spending $7,000 on a bike, that's a regular C-Series frame. You might as well upgrade to the XO frame, get the nicer suspension, get the CC frame, which is like almost a half a pound lighter, and then you just get a couple nicer things that I think is worth it for that extra $1,000. And then from there, you can keep going up and up. I think the highest build I'd go is the XO transmission Axis with the reserve wheels, which I believe is $88.99, so $8,900. That's the highest build that I would, if you're willing to spend that much, is what I would say that's kind of worth it. But I'd go to this XO build that I got. This XO transmission works so dang good. So yeah, with that, let's go to the pros and the cons. Let's start with pros. And with that, this XO transmission is amazing, like I just said. The in-frame storage, amazing. The geometry for this bike just feels good. It just feels right. And I wouldn't want to change it too much, but we'll get, when in the cons, I'll talk to you about that in just a tiny bit. So overall, this bike is amazing. It descends so well. And now let's go over to the cons. Cons, biggest thing that goes to my mind is this rear shock, which I've probably talked about too much in this video, but this rear shock just isn't cutting it. Like, I'd just rather, I know for a fact that if I had that old DPS, like the 2023 and prior DPS, this bike would feel better. And it's kind of a bummer that I have to say that. On the descents, I wouldn't mind like a little bit slacker on the head tube angle. A lot of bikes are in the 65-0 category now for this type, and I really enjoy that. So literally this week, after I'm filming this video, I'm putting a 140 Pike Ultimate on the front, and then keeping the back at a 120, but I'm going to put a Super Deluxe Ultimate on it, so that extra piggyback, get rid of that rear shock, put some RockShox stuff on it. I know that this bike actually, I think, comes with either a Pike or a Fox. So you might get lucky and get the Pike. Some people really are loyal to the Fox brand though. But right now, I think that RockShox has just really taken a massive stride forward and past Fox in all the categories of their stuff, besides maybe the SID, but we'll talk about that on another thing. But anyways, let's wrap this thing up. This bike is so rad. I'm stoked to have this. This is my personal bike, and then I have a Yeti SB160. So anyone that's like, oh, you can't have Santa Cruz and Yeti, you gotta be one or the other. Dude, like, it's, both bikes are so awesome, and I love both of them. So Santa Cruz and Yeti, both awesome. But with that, if you like this video, like and subscribe for more like this, and get out and ride.